What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Stadium Drive Week 8 here on the Storied Rivals Podcast Network and on YouTube. Thanks so much for tuning in. Will Ford here. And this week, we're taking a trip into some Columbus area schools, and we've got a big matchup, two 4-3 teams, uh, the Olentangy Orange Pioneers and the Upper Arlington Golden Bears. Olentangy Orange started the year 1-3, and now they've won, their last three. And they are currently 4-3 on the year, and they are just playing really, really well. 5 of their 7 games have been decided by 7 points or less. So they played some close games, and we know how that goes in football. I mean, if you're playing in a lot of close games, it seems like you either win them all or you lose them all. Or you go through a stretch where you lose a few and then you win a few, and that's kind of been the case with Olentangy Orange. They lost a few of those close ones. Now they've won a few. Had a big win last week, and that gets them right back on track. And they're sitting there at 4-3, and Levi Davis, their quarterback, he's just so super super talented. Only a sophomore and just playing really well. Obviously, he can throw it. All these quarterbacks can throw it in these Columbus leagues and all around. But his ability to run the football has become a lot more prevalent the last few weeks. They had 3 rushing touchdowns last week against Dublin Coffman, and he's just a tremendous athlete, a great football player. And then on the defensive side for the Pioneers, Treyton Schroeder, 2 interceptions last week, and he's got 6 on the year. And he's actually only played in 5 games. He's had a little bit of an injury and missed a couple games early on, and so he got 6 picks in 5 games. That's pretty remarkable. And like this Olentangy Orange team has now become a really really tough out because they're playing their best football right now. And if you look at Upper Arlington, they've actually lost their last 2 games by a combined total of 5 points. 3 points or less has decided the last 2. And they lost in overtime last week to Olentangy Liberty. And it's kind of the same thing I was saying, with Olentangy Orange. Like those close games, it seems like you either win them or you lose them. And Coach Buttermore, talking to him, talked about, this team is just made a few uncharacteristic mistakes throughout the year that has put them in this position. But they're still very talented. They're still playing well, and they still have a great opportunity to not only win out against some pretty tough opponents, but continue to make some noise in the playoffs and whatnot. But this is a huge game though, because both teams are 4-3, and I think 4-3 or 5-3 if you win this game obviously feels and looks a lot better than if you're sitting at 500 at 4-4. So this is a huge game, huge matchup, and I'm really excited to watch it. We're going to be there on Friday night, and so make sure you tune in to Stadium Drive live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And we talked to head coach Justin Buttermore of the Golden Bears and Zebb Schroeder of the Orange Pioneers. And so we'll hop into those interviews, but we also want to feature another game this week. So we talked to Tennyson Varney, the head coach of Hamilton Township, the Rangers, excuse me, and they are having a historic season. Right now, they're undefeated. They've only won 4 playoff games in the program's history, but they're undefeated right now, and they're blowing out teams. I mean, they have their margin of victory is just insane, and they've been playing great all season long. And this week they take on Liberty Union, and so we wanted to feature that game and this Hamilton Township team this week because it's truly historic what Coach Varney has done with the Ranger football program. He was an assistant there for a few years back in the late 2000s, early 2010s, then had a couple stints elsewhere, and now is back and has been back since COVID, essentially. And it's been a struggle to work through COVID, obviously. Taking over a new, starting any job, but taking over a new football program and trying to integrate your system and your culture, and get your players to buy in during a pandemic in 2020. That's extremely difficult to do. But that year they did go 6-2, and they won their 4th playoff game ever. And then now just trying to build on that and continue to get players to buy in. And now they see themselves at 7-0, and a tremendous opportunity, because they're just so talented offensively to, win their last three. Liberty Union is winless on the year. And so, I believe they might be 1-6, but they're not looking past them, though. They know that they still have a tough challenge in front of them, because they're a team that plays extremely hard. Liberty Union does, but we wanted to feature that game as well. So we'll start with Tennyson Varney of the Hamilton Township Rangers, tease their game, talk about their historic season to this point, and then we'll dive into Olentangy Orange, Upper Arlington, and we'll start with Justin Buttermore of the Golden Bears, followed by Zebb Schroeder of the Pioneers. But thanks so much for tuning in to Stadium Drive Week 8. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, on Apple Podcast, and on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, so you can listen to the previous weeks, but that way you know when we drop them, the last few weeks of this football season. And once again, we'll be there this Friday for this game, Upper Arlington and Olentangy Orange, and we'll be live from about 6-ish to 6:30, 6:45. Get you ready for this game, hype up this game, this huge game between 2, 4, and 3 teams in the OCC. So it's going to be pretty exciting. But thanks so much for tuning in. Here is head coach Tennyson Varney of the Hamilton Township Rangers, and then we'll dive into Olentangy Orange, Upper Arlington. All right, we're here with head coach Tennyson Varney of the Hamilton Township Rangers ahead of Week 8, going up against Liberty Union this week. And Coach, well, first of all, thank you so much for your time joining us on the show this week. I really appreciate you taking the time, talking some football for a few minutes. But 7-0, historic start to the season, and you're outscoring opponents 339 to 119 through 7 weeks, which is just, it's pretty remarkable. But like, how are you doing it? Because like fans watching, they could look at it and be like, oh, it's the offense, it's the defense, but you, the coach of your football team, what's been the story for you and your guys this year as you're 7-0 and on an incredible run right now?
Well, first of all, it's kids, right? Okay. Players make plays, right? That's really what's going on. Is we have a really, really good group of players who have bought into our system and are learning it, learn a little bit more about it every game, and they're playing their role. We talk about it all the time. When you're scoring like this, there's guys who are going to score a ton. Some guys aren't going to score as many. We always say we don't care who gets the glory, just as long as we're winning, right? And our kids have bought into that, and I think it takes a pretty special group to do that. When you're scoring like that, it's definitely just about your players making plays.
How are you able to get the guys to buy into that? Because obviously it's a process. It takes a couple of years. Like you've been with this program. You were an assistant with this program from 2008 to 2013. Then you had a couple stints elsewhere. Now you come back, and obviously you have a little bit of success early. But then there's COVID and everything, and you're working through all of that. Like, how are you able to like slowly but surely build this program into the juggernaut that it is now? You're 7-0, and now you're in prime position to get back to the playoffs and win another play. Like, this program's only won 4 playoff games in its history, so get back to the playoffs, win some more playoff games. Like, how did you do it over these couple of years, working through all those challenges and getting these guys to buy in?
It's really about relationships and time, right? You have to. There's no cheat code, right? There's no way to just fast forward and say we're just going to skip it all and get to where we need to be. It's like I said, the seniors, I've had them for 4 years. It's the first group that I had as freshmen when I came in, and just their buy-in, their commitment to wanting to do things right, their love for our community and our school. I mean, it's a very good group of high character individuals, and sometimes as a coach, you get really lucky when you have a group like that getting away. But really, when it comes down to it, it's trust, relationships. It's the things that matter, right? It's not some saying that's on the wall or anything like that. It's got to have substance to it, So very lucky to be around a group of kids like that and just enjoying every minute of it.
So the last 3 weeks of the season for your team, the last 2 weeks you faced two teams that I believe are currently 6-1 right now. But this week coming up, you have Liberty Union. They're 0-7, and obviously you don't want to kind of fall into this like false sense of security of playing a team that's 0-7 and thinking it's an easy win or anything like that. So what are you doing this week with your guys to get ready for what they do? What do you have to do this week against Liberty Union, whether it's offensively, defensively, to come out of this game with a win, move to 8-0, and just keep this train rolling through the last 3 weeks of this regular season?
Yeah, first of all, when you put on the film of Liberty Union, number one, they're playing very hard. Respectfully, been a very good program throughout the years. Those kids care about their school just like we care about ours. So, we keep telling our kids, just like the past couple of weeks, these guys are going to play hard, right? They care. They're going to come out. They're not going to lay down. They don't care if you've won a few games, if you lost a few. It doesn't matter to them, right? We still have to play them on Friday night, and we've kind of just really talked about all year how like things don't happen by accident, right? You have to physically and mentally prepare to make them happen. And so that's kind of what we've just been focusing on. We're doing our same game prep we've always done. Um, a routine is a routine, and we know that it's high school football, right? These teams aren't far. The margin between winning and losing is so close in high school football that we're doing our best to prepare our kids to understand that this could be a dogfight on Friday night. Going down to Liberty Union, and you can't look past it, right? You have to play. So.
Well, we're really looking forward to the game this Friday, Coach. We really appreciate the time you joining us this week on such short notice. But you've been on an incredible run this year. We've been excited following the team and documenting the journey along the way. But best of luck this Friday, the rest of the way, and go get wins number 4, 5, 6, 7 in the playoffs this year, man. But we really appreciate the time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we're here with head coach Justin Buttermore of the Upper Arlington Golden Bears ahead of Week 8 as they take on Olentangy Orange. Coach, I really appreciate your time this morning to talk some football. The last two games, you've lost by 3 points or less, which obviously it's tough. But you've been in the games that you've lost the last couple of weeks to Hilliard Bradley and Olentangy Liberty, and 5 points is kind of the difference between, I guess, 6-1 and 4-3. But like, how are you relaying a positive message to your team that, like, even though we lost those games, we were in those games. We had a great opportunity to win them, and we have a great opportunity the last 3 weeks of the year against Olentangy Orange, and then your last two games of the season to finish the year strong, even though you've just had some tough battles the last couple weeks.
Yeah, it has been tough. I mean, we're obviously used to winning, and anytime you drop two straight, it's difficult. And the next three are every bit as hard or more difficult than the last 2 weeks. So it's been a difficult stretch, but we play great teams, and we've tried to tell the kids. I mean, the bottom line is we've made some really uncharacteristic mistakes, not just the last 2 weeks, but throughout the year. We have not been able to finish drives. We haven't been able to finish quarters or halves or even games. We've had some opportunities to make plays to win games, and we haven't been able to do that. So, I mean, the message is that you got to clean up the little things. We're having far too many penalties and turnovers. We've given up big plays, which is something we normally don't do. So, I've talked to the kids about handling adversity. I mean, this is one of those times that you got to put your head down and just keep working hard. You got to find a way to finish games. You got to find a way to finish drives. You got to find a way to just make plays to win the game when you have opportunities. So that's been the message, to go out and get better during the week and finish plays in practice, so that you are ready when the time comes in the game.
Right. Now, Connor McClelland's kind of been your workhorse this year. He had over 30 carries last week, 157 yards, a touchdown. He's been doing that all year long for you. How much will you rely on him these last couple games of the year? And obviously it's going to depend on the game flow against the opponents you play as well. But I mean, it seems like he's the focal point of your offense, and then the pass is kind of supplemental to what he does for you. Is that the case? Are you going to rely on him this game against Olentangy Orange and then the rest of the way?
Well, there's no doubt we want to get the run game going. That's something we weren't able to do really early in the year, and except for maybe the big Walnut game. Last week, he got 36 carries. Quite honestly, that wasn't the plan. We don't want to give a guy 36 carries just for the sake of his own health and the freshness of the back. We'd like to be able to kind of mix those carries up a little bit more. But last week just kind of dictated that we do it. We were able to control the clock and control the ball. Like I said, we just didn't finish drives inside the the red zone. We had the ball at the 1 yard line a couple different times that would have ended the game, or would have changed the outcome of the game at the end. But Connor's certainly a guy that we want to get carries to and be able to mix in. We always want to be a downhill run team and mix in some obviously quick high percentage throws and a few shot plays. But we'd like to mix the carries up a little more.
Right, right. Now, Olentangy Orange is kind of in a similar boat as you, as far as like playing close games this year. 5 of their first 7 games, they were decided by 7 points or fewer, and they started 1-3. Now they've won 3-0. So this game between you and them, it's kind of, I mean, it's big because both of you are 4-3, and 5-3 obviously looks a lot better than 4-4 as you enter the last 2 weeks of the year. But I mean, what are you going to do to prepare for them? Because obviously you're looking to get back into the win column. You've played in some pretty close games, and Olentangy Orange has won some close games recently. Like, what are you looking forward to in that matchup with Olentangy Orange, Coach Schroeder, and what those guys do up there?
Well, they're playing really, really well. Like you said, they lost some close games early. They are playing. They look like a completely different team in their recent games. Last week against Coffman, they were outstanding, and it's a really team oriented approach. But their quarterback makes it go. Their quarterback is only a sophomore. He started against us last year as a freshman, but he's a kid that already has scholarship offers. He's a tremendous athlete. He's throwing the ball extremely well. But I think the addition of adding him into the run game has really made them difficult to defend. He's got really great speed. He's very elusive. And like I said, you mix that in with a couple of good running backs and a couple of good receivers and O-line, and it's just difficult. It's difficult to defend them. So, we've got to be sound. We've got to prevent big plays. We got to keep him in front of us and inside of us and try to rally to the ball because, they really mix up what they do. They attack the whole width of the field and depth of the field. And so we've got to be really, really good defensively to get them off the field and prevent big plays.
Now, how about offensively? Because Treyton Schroeder, their corner, he had 2 picks last week, and he has 6 picks on the year. He's just been making tremendous plays all year in the secondary for the Pioneers. I mean, how are you going to attack him? Obviously you trust your guys. Obviously, all coaches do. But are you not going to shy away from that matchup? Are you going to go away from him? Maybe? Are you going to mix it up? Like, how do you attack a guy who is just got such good instincts for getting the football and just making plays for the defense for Olentangy Orange?
Yeah, and we're going to run our offense, but certainly you don't take risky shots at a guy that picks the ball a lot. I mean, you don't want to throw the ball up in situations where a guy has great ball skills and obviously has shown that he can make plays. So, their defense has, like I said, played very, very well also. They have not given up big plays. They rally to the football well. They're physical. So, we're gonna mix the run and pass like we always do. But we're not going to take any unnecessary shots at him.
That's fair, yeah. But Coach, I really appreciate your time today, this morning, talking some football ahead of Week 8. Best of luck this Friday. We're going to be there at the game, and we're really excited to watch. But go get to 5-3, man, and get back to the playoffs and make some noise.
All right, I appreciate it.
All right, we're here with Zebb Schroeder ahead of Week 8 with Olentangy Orange High School as they're getting ready to take on Upper Arlington. And Coach, I really appreciate your time this week, getting ready for UA. And you defeated Dublin Coffman last week, 35-14. That's the first win you've had against their program in 4 years. So what was it like, energy in the locker room after that game to get a win against them for the first time in a few years? But now you're also 4-3. You're on a roll. You started the year 1-3, and so now 3 wins in a row, 4-3. Like, what's the energy like after that win, but now also just being 4-3 and playing pretty well right now?
Yeah, I mean, when you play in our conference and in the schedule we play, like, you cherish every single win you get, because you're playing against really good kids, really good coaches. So they all mean a lot to us, right? And so I was just really proud of our kids. We had some bumps in the road early in the season, lost some close games, dealt with some injuries, and they really showed some resilience of continue to stay positive and get better. I'm just really proud of how they've responded to the start of the year.
Yeah. So I guess what goes in, like, what do you tell your team after you start 1-3 and you have those close games, like you said, because 5 of the first 7 games this year for you, they've been decided by 7 points or less. And that's obviously like, those are go either way games. And those are sometimes the toughest ones to lose because you feel like you have a chance up until the very end. Like, how did you keep your guys with it, even though they were losing a couple of those close games early? Now you find yourself at 4-3 and now a chance to be at 5-3 this week. And obviously that has to feel pretty good, considering how the year started.
Yeah, I think there's nothing, there's no bigger attention getter than not getting something you want, right? So when we come on the bad end of the scoreboard, I feel like everybody has a little bit more of attention to, okay, why didn't we get the job done, and how do we fix that? And early in the season, we had a really high amount of like just some unforced errors. Maybe alignment issues. Maybe it was a special team play, and then we turned the ball over a decent amount, and we just weren't, putting our best foot forward. Weeks 2, 3, and 4, and granted, that's part of that's due to the really good, teams that we were playing, but still, I think we've cleaned up a lot of that. And kind of was able to get their attention on like, hey, when you're playing in our conference against playoff like teams week in and week out, it may come down to just a couple possessions, and if we are misaligned or we have an MA or a holding penalty or whatever it may be, that can derail you for a drive, and that could be a difference in the game.
Now, the two standouts in last week's win, Levi Davis had 3 rushing touchdowns, threw the ball pretty well as well. And then Treyton Schroeder had 2 interceptions, and he leads the team defensively with 6 picks this year. I mean, like, what have those guys meant to your team, kind of like, through those early struggles, but like they've played really well. They've been constants for your football team, like, with Davis on the offensive end, running and throwing the football, and then Schroeder just coming up with plays for you defensively. What have they meant to your football team through the first 7 weeks as you approach this final stretch?
Yeah, Treyton has the ability to judge a ball and go get a ball. Like we rarely, it's a rarity as to how good he can, just track a ball in the air. I mean, it's his ball when it's in the air. It's really incredible. So him and Will Musgrove were critical in this game, in the Coffman game, because Coffman's got a really good running attack. They got a very physical offensive line, and allowed us to kind of stack the box a little bit numbers wise, and just say, hey, Will and Treyton, you guard the 2 split end receivers, the guys that can run. You're going to man up on those guys, and they were able to do so, and they got challenged quite a few times, but you challenge Treyton long enough deep, he's going to pick one because he can judge it so well. He's got 6 interceptions in 5 games played.
Yeah,
because he missed 2 games, so it's just incredible. So obviously they're a big part of it, and then Levi, I think the light bulb has come on, especially with his passing notoriety, and how well he passed the ball maybe early in the season, and everybody knows that he can throw the football. We have some really good receivers at our disposal. Teams have just kind of dared us to run the football, and when you have even numbers in the box, and then you add your quarterback, you're a +1. And I think he's really taken to that, and we've had a lot of success with him just kind of owning up and saying, okay, if you guys are going to drop 8, then I'm going to take advantage by running the football.
So how are you prepping for UA this week then, and Coach Justin Buttermore? Because both of you guys are 4-3. It's a huge game, and obviously, 5-3 looks a lot better than 4-4 as you approach these last couple weeks of the season. But they've lost 2 straight games, and UA lost to Liberty last week in overtime. Like, they're going to be playing probably with a little bit of desperation and trying to just get back in the win column and finish the season strong, and as you guys are as well. So what's prep like for them? Because they're an extremely talented football team, and they just haven't. The last couple of weeks just hasn't gone their way.
Right. No, they're so solid, and Coach Buttermore is a fantastic football coach, and they have a great staff. And the best thing about when you play them, you're preparing for them, you just understand they're not going to screw up. Talk about unforced errors and missed assignments. They're just a tough out because their kids are very disciplined, and they can execute their schemes really well. So like playing them the last few years, I mean, that's one of the biggest constants is just they really don't beat themselves, and then you throw in the fact that they have some really good players. So it's no surprise that they've been pretty good football team.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate your time joining us today, and best of luck this Friday. We're going to be at the game watching. We're excited to watch, but you've been playing some great football right now, and looking forward to see you guys the rest of the year. But best of luck Friday, and thanks so much for the time today.
All right. Thanks for having me on.